Don't forget to subscribe TechVastVlogger and also tap the bell icon to never miss a video from us. In this video, we are going to demonstrate how we can install Xendesktop 7.13 on Windows Server 2012 R2. We will also talk about some of the core components available with Xendesktop 7.13. Once again, friends, my name is Nitin Lal and I welcome you all to TechVastVlogger.com. If you're new to my YouTube channel, then consider subscribing. Alright, let's begin. Welcome back, friends. Before performing the installation of Xendesktop 7.13, let's quickly understand the system requirements here. Now, if we talk about Xendesktop 7.13, the very first step is to download 7.13 ISO from mycitrix.com website. If we talk about operating system, we require either Windows Server 2008 R2, 2012 or 2016. In this video, we are going to use 2012 to perform this installation. For a hypervisor, you can either use ESX, you can use XenServer or Hyper-V. It's up to you, whatever you want, you can use it. In our case, we are using XenServer here as a hypervisor. In case if you don't want to use XenServer or any of the hypervisor, then you can use static servers as well. You can create your static servers, install the VD on the top of it, and you can simply go ahead and include that particular machine via Citrix Studio. You need one account to perform the installation as well, and that account should be a member of local admin group. So you can simply create one service account and add that particular service account to the local admin group of that machine, and then afterwards perform the installation. Again, the account which you are using to perform the installation, that account should have some rights as well on the database to create the database and make the required changes on the schema level. So you can simply go to this link as well, and you can just check to be sure what all database rights you require in order to perform the installation. So if you talk about VDA, you can either use Windows 7, 8 or 10, or you can use Windows Server OS as well. So that is again either Windows Server 2012, 8 or 16. It's up to you, whatever you want, you can use that. Now if you talk about the hardware requirement, you need minimum of 4 CPU with 5 GB of RAM. That 4 CPU and 5 GB of RAM you require in case if you're using the lab environment. Now in production environment, if you're using all the components on one machine, then I recommend that you should have at least 12 GB of RAM on the machine in order to run all those components on one single box. So when I'm saying all the components, I'm talking about delivery controller, I'm talking about storefront, director, license server, all those components on one single box. So if you talk about SQL, you need at least 2008 R2, SQL Server 2008 R2, SP2 or higher than that. You should have one domain at least in order to perform the installation. Now if you talk about Citrix license server, you should have at least 11.14. Minimum is 11.14, or you can go beyond that as well. That is one of the basic thing. You need to ensure that before you're performing the installation of Xendesktop or XenApp, you should have a static IP address assigned to that machine, and that machine should be a part of a domain. Now I tried to include few other things as well here in case if you want to separate all these components. The one which I talked about further up here, I'm going to install all the components on one machine. So for lab environment, you need 4 CPU, 5 GB of RAM, and you can use all the components. But in case if you're using production environment, then you should have at least 12 GB of RAM, as I stated. But in case if you want to separate all these components, then I recommend that for delivery controller, you should have at least 5 GB of RAM and 800 MB of hard drive. That is minimum. Nobody is going to use 800 MB these days. So that is again minimum. For studio, 1 GB of RAM at least and 100 MB of hard disk space at least. For director, you need 2 GB of RAM and 200 MB of hard disk space. Storefront 2 GB of RAM, license server you need 2 GB of RAM. So these are the basic requirements. So I will just leave this link on the description box as well, so you can simply refer the description box and get this information from there as well. So let's quickly jump over to the installation part now. So I have already installed Windows Server 2012 R2, as well as I have already installed SQL Server as well. For this installation, I'm going to use SQL Server Full Edition. I'm not going to use the Express Edition because I need to create a free server as well separately, which I'm going to cover in my future videos. So that's why I prefer to use the full edition of SQL rather than the Express one. So this server of mine is acting as a SQL, and I'm going to use this server for my Xendesktop. So let's quickly install the Xendesktop components on this machine. So I've already attached the ISO for Xendesktop 7.13. Simply right click on auto select and click run as administrator. Now as soon as you run it up, you have two options. You can either install XenApp or you can install Xendesktop as well. It's the same media for both XenApp and Xendesktop. So we want to install Xendesktop here. So just click on start here and click on delivery controller. Read the license agreement. I have already done that, so just simply accept the license agreement here. Click next. So now it's up to you what all components you would like to install here. So in my case, I'm going to use this machine as a license server, storefront server. I'm going to install the studio as well as the delivery controller. So these four components I require on the same machine. From here you can change the installation location as well. So by default it is set to C program files. I'm fine with it, but if you would like to change it, you can simply change it from here. Let's stick with the defaults and click next. As I said that I already have SQL Server in my environment, so I don't want to install the Express Edition here. So I'll uncheck that box, hit next. So in this screen, these are some default ports for delivery controller, license server and storefront server. So you have two options here. Either you can set up the rule automatically on the OS level, or you can do it manually as well. I prefer to set it up automatically, so I'll select that option, hit next. Now as soon as we hit next, it will just give us an option, whereas it will install all these components on the machine, as well as the prerequisite which we need to perform the installation. Now if we talk about the old Xendesktop solutions, on those days you need to install all these prerequisite manually, but now with 7.x all you need to do is to insert the media and it will do the needful for you. So let's hit the install. So this installation gonna take a bit of time, so I'm gonna pause this video for now. As soon as this installation is finished, I will be back. And we are back here. As you can see that it installed half of the components already, and it's asking us to restart our machine. So let's quickly go ahead and restart the machine here. Yep, that's fine. Alright, so our machine has been booted up already. So let's quickly sign into this machine. So as you can see that as soon as we logged into this machine, it started the installation again. So again, this installation gonna take a bit of time, so I'm gonna pause this video again. As soon as this installation is done, I will be back. And we are back here. As you can see that the installation is completed and it just jumped over to the very next screen. Here it's asking me to participate on this call home program, whereas it's going to gather the information and send it over to Citrix. I don't want to do it right now because I'm using this on my lab environment. So I will simply select I don't want to participate in call home and hit next. Now as you can see that all the components has been installed successfully. So from here I can simply launch the studio. So as you can see that the studio has been launched. Now here, as soon as we launch the studio, we can see three different options. One is deliver application and desktop to your user, which we are going to do now. The very second option is remote PC access, and the other one is we can simply connect to the delivery controller if we already have one. In our case, we don't have any. We need to create a new site altogether. So we'll select the very first option here. Now in this screen you can simply give the name of the site. So in my case I'm gonna give it as TechVast for now. Hit next. Now as you can see that it's going to create different databases for us. Now here you have an option whereas you can create a database automatically if you have required access. If you are the one who is managing everything like SQL, Citrix, Windows, all that stuff. So if you are one of those guys, then you can create it from here. But in case if you have a separate SQL admin in your organization, then you can simply generate a script and hand it over to your SQL guy, and they will execute those scripts, and afterwards you can simply resume the installation from here. Now in our case we are going to use the very first option, whereas we will create the databases from here itself. So that's the name of my database instance. So let me copy it and paste it here. Hit next. Now it's just validating the database details which I have supplied just now. Alright. Now in this screen you can see that it's asking for the Citrix licensing information. So I don't have a license as of now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the very first option, which is use the free 30-day trial. I want to do that. Just connect to the license server. In my case it's the same machine which I'm using as of now. So that machine is acting as a license server as well for me. So the connection is fine, so simply hit next. Now in this screen you have an option whereas you can supply the information of your hypervisor. As I said earlier as well, in my case I'm using Citrix Zen server, but if you have any other hypervisor available like Hyper-V, VMware, or if you have a cloud solution like Microsoft Azure or Amazon, you can use that as well. In case if you want to use the static machine, then you need to select no machine management here and then hit next. But in my case I'm going to use Citrix Zen server here, so let's supply the information of my Citrix Zen server. So as you can see that's my Citrix Zen server, and the IP of my Zen server is 192.168.2.9. so let's supply this information here. 192.168.2.9. just supply the username and password here. So I'm going to use this root credentials here. And give it a name as Citrix host. Click next. Now here you have two options. If you have any stair storage available on your hypervisor, you can select the very first option. I don't have it. I want to use the local storage because I'm just using it on my lab environment as of now. But in your corporate environment, you'll probably be having the dedicated storage or a shared storage connected to your hypervisor. I don't have it, so I'll select the very second option here. Hit next. That is fine. Here you can give the name of your network resource, so let's give it as my shared resources. Select one of the connections here, so that is fine. You can modify it later as well if you want. If you make any changes, if you add any other network resources on your hypervisor, then you can change the information here as well. That is available later on also. So I will show you how you can do that. So simply hit next. I don't want to use app DNA, but later on I want to use app server, but I don't have it set up as of now, so I'll leave it unchecked. Again, these settings I can modify later as well. So hit next again and then finish. As you can see that it started the installation. So as soon as this installation is finished, then my site will be ready. So this installation gonna take a bit of time, so I'm gonna pause this video again. As soon as this installation is done, I will be back. We are back. As you can see that my installation has been finished. That's the site of mine which I have created just now. So let's quickly have a look what all options are available when you open your studio for the very first time. So as soon as the installation actually complete, this is one of the first screen you will see. So that's the name of my site, as you can see here. Let me just expand the screen a bit so you all can see. That's the name of my site. Now here you have some other options like machine catalogs, you have app disk, you have delivery controller as well. So if you want to provision any machines, you need to create the catalog first, and after that you can deliver those machines or application by using the delivery groups as well. I will be creating a separate video altogether on which I will be covering the installation of VDA agent on Windows Server 2012 or 2008 or Windows Client OS as well. So on those videos I will be covering how you can perform the installation of VDA agent, as well as how you can create a machine catalogs here, and also how you can deliver those machines or application by using the delivery groups. From this pane you can create a policies for your environment, so I will be covering that as well in future videos. So this option is very helpful just to keep a track of the changes which has been performed on your environment. So this is more like a admin task. Like for instance, if I create any machine catalog, it will capture that information here. If I create any delivery group, it will capture that information also. Or if I added anything within my Citrix environment, then it will capture that information as well. So this option is pretty helpful if you want to know what all changes has been done, probably in your absence, by different admins. Now these are some configuration thing. If you want to see who all admins are there, you can simply check. As of now I have performed the installation by using this account, so that's why you can see only one admin here. But in case if you would like to add any new admin, you can simply click on create admin. Just browse the name of that admin. Like let's try once. I have one account with the name of Citrix admin, so let's add that account here. Click all objects, click next. Now here you have few options, whereas you can set the permission level for that user. You can simply give them the access on delivery groups. You can give them full access so they can access everything. You can give access as a help desk user, so they can do some basic stuff like maybe restart or log off the user session, things like that. There are some other options as well, like host administrator, machine catalog administrator. So it's explain everything with the name itself. Like if you take an example of machine catalog, then these are those users who can you know, do the admin level stuff on the machine catalogs. Now if you want to give the read-only access only to any user, you can do that as well. So user will be able to see the things, but they would not be able to edit anything. I want to make him admin on this Citrix environment, so I will select it as full administrator, hit next, and then finish. It's pretty straightforward. Now you can see two different accounts here with full admin rights. Here you have controllers. If you would like to know how many controllers you have in your environment, you can just check it here. I just have one controller as of now. I will be adding more in future, and I will also let you guys know how you can do that. So stay tuned. I will come up with that video soon. Now if you go to hosting, here you can see the name of your hypervisor, which we have set up during the installation. You can change the name as well from here if you like, and that's the network which I have set up. Again, if you want to set up any new connection or resources, you can do that as well from here. Let's say for instance, if you have set up any new VLAN on your hypervisor and you would like to add it here, you can simply do that. That option is here. You can add another host as well if you like. So these are few things which you can manage from this option. So this server of mine is acting as a licensing server as well, but in case if you have a separate license server, you can access that information as well from here. So I have already added the evaluation license here, so you can see that I have these much licenses available as of now, and these are the evaluation license. So the one which I am using at this moment is Citrix Xendesktop Platinum licenses. Now this machine of mine is acting as a storefront server as well, so I can simply add that server here also. I don't have any AppV server set up at this moment, but I will be setting it up soon. So I will add it up here as soon as my AppV server is set up in my environment. So that is also pretty straightforward. I can simply click on this Add Microsoft server. So here I can just supply the management server information, and here the publishing server information. App DNA, we are not going to cover that in this video, so I will skip it for now. So most of the time actually these two things are pretty important, because you make most of the changes here. Maybe creating a machine catalog in your environment. So I will be creating a separate video altogether on which I will be creating few machine via MCS as well as PVS. So that's all I have for now. Thanks for joining me for this course. I will see you in the very next tutorial of mine. If you haven't subscribed my channel yet, then consider subscribing. Until then, I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to thank you for viewing.